you've ever gone to eat lunch in the field or dinner and you got to the box of MREs only to find that all the good MREs are gone and you were left with pork sausage with gravy, menu item number 4, and that's just what you had to deal with, hit that subscribe button. If you really like pork sausage and gravy, God bless you. Like, comment, do all those good things. It really helps me out. Subscribing really helps me out as well. Obviously, let's get the word out. Let's get some knowledge bombs out there. If you want to support my channel, I might be doing a Patreon in the future. I might collapse to that. But for now, Freedom Munitions is the way to help me. So they support my channel quite a bit with ammunition. Shot their ammunition for a long time. Now they give you guys a discount. It's pretty cool. They give me ammo, give you a discount. They're not really asking for much. So use that discount code, Garand with no spaces. It helps me out, helps them out, helps you guys out. You get some training in there. So get in there and get some ammo. All right, let's talk about low power variable optics. There is a lot of low power variable optics out there right now. You have the Vortex 1 to 6 times optic. You have the Steiner M5XI. You have the TR24, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on. Tons of great ones. But I haven't seen a whole lot of reviews on the EOTech VUDU. So the EOTech VUDU is EOTech's entry into the magnified optic market. Now there's a lot of different models out there, but the model that we're going to talk about is the 1 to 6 times optic. Now if you're not familiar with how a 1 to 6 times optic works, let's kind of talk about it really quickly. So at 1x, it's almost like a red dot. Wide open field of view, it looks like you're just kind of looking through a tube. But you can easily crank that all the way up to 6 times magnification or anywhere in between 1 and 6 times to make those longer, accurate shots. Now these optics have really taken off in 3-gun, and as well you're starting to see them being used in special operations to some extent or another. The EOTech VUDU, before we get into it, I'm going to do a shameless plug for a great company. If you notice, the EOTech VUDU is mounted onto a Treyarch Systems AR-15. So how can an AR-15 be any better than another AR-15? Well, as you know, components and machining and all that kind of stuff. But Treyarch has done some really interesting things as far as ambi goes and their barrels are concerned especially. I'm going to be doing a full video on this rifle and how awesome it is, but I just wanted to point out that I'm a huge fan of their weapons, and if you're looking to buy one, I will gladly give it my stamp of approval already. So, really cool rifle. This EOTech VUDU is riding on the Gh3 mount, if you're not familiar, as well as a Gh3 handguard right here. Big fan of Gh3. They do sponsor me. EOTech sponsors me. Treyarch sponsors me. These are all free things, guys. But I like to consider myself fairly objective, or as objective as I possibly can when getting a bunch of free shit. So let's talk about the EOTech VUDU, what I like and what I don't like about it. So what I like about it is the glass. The glass is very, very clear. It's Japanese glass, just like the Vortex Razor, and it has really good edge-to-edge clarity, that type of thing. I've seen some people commenting that they don't think that the edge-to-edge clarity is as good as other 1 to 6 optics. And sure, I think that the Steiner does have better glass, but when compared to the Vortex, it's fairly comparable. So I've been incredibly impressed with that glass. And what that also comes down to is how good it looks at 1x. So at 1x with the EOTech VUDU, and if you're not familiar, EOTech is famous for the little donut of death reticle, and they've taken that reticle and they've put it into their 1 to 6 times optics. So at 1x, that ring is awesome. Between 1 to about 40 yards, you are absolutely shredding man-sized targets. Now, that field of view is really huge. It's not as large as the Vortex, which is kind of like the gold standard, but still really large, really excellent. What that also comes down to with that 1x is that eye relief. So the EOTech VUDU has awesome eye relief. You're looking at about 3.1 to 3.9 inches, which is incredibly generous, and which is on par with many of the other 1 to 6 variable optics, but I do want to point it out nonetheless. So this is about the correct eye relief with the EOTech VUDU, and it looks good. Awesome. So, EOTech VUDU, good eye relief. Another thing is going to be weight. The EOTech VUDU is actually pretty light. Now, there are optics, of course, lighter than it, but in its kind of category of the 1 to 6, it's pretty far down there. So it's weighing in at 19.75 ounces. Now we can compare that to the TR24, so the Reticle AccuPoint, which is a 1 to 4 optic, which weighs 14.40. And I consider that like pretty freaking light for optics, but at the same time, that's still a 1 to 4. Now for the Vortex Razor, it's way lighter than that. lighter than the Vortex Razor, which is 25.2 ounces. Now, that being said, I still consider the Vortex Razor to be among the gold standards of kind of, you know, the 1 to 1.5K price variable optics. But nonetheless, the EOTech VUDU does not weigh a whole lot, so that is something that's pretty cool. Another really innovative thing that EOTech did is a scope lever. So to change your magnification levels, you have to rotate this ring to change that magnification level. Most of these are kind of stiff, so these little scope rings, that helps you to simply pull that over to change that magnification. Now, usually you have to buy one, so I bought this one from Vortex, added it to my Razor. That way I can turn it, because otherwise it just takes forever, me just kind of cranking it over and over again. Now, EOTech simply included a little space to screw in their included one. No ring to mess with or mount or any of that kind of stuff. Really good idea. Something I'd like to see a lot of other companies doing, but in any case, super smooth to actuate, good to go. Great job with EOTech. I actually put a little bit of blue Loctite on my particular scope lever right here, and personally I have not had it come out, and I've been pretty rough on this thing. So the turrets are easy to zero. I haven't had any problems zeroing this. They have really positive clicks. Feels good when you're zeroing this thing. No issues there for me, really. Again, it's about, I think it's half MOA increments when you're going across. I'm not making shots out much further than about 400 with this thing anyhow. It means it's still an AR-15, still 5.56 and that type of stuff. But in any case, zeroing was easy. And then finally, first focal plane. So what that means is you have two kind of optics out there when it comes to your magnified optics. You have first and second focal plane. Now, there are people who are way more expert on this type of thing than I am. Realize that I am kind of more of a red dot shooter, but I'm going to do my best to explain it to you. So with a second focal plane optic, when you are increasing the zoom, the reticle is not doing anything. It's just the reticle is constant. It's just the reticle looks the same through the entirety of the zoom when you're doing it with something like, let's say, Vortex Razor 1 to 6 times. So it's good and it's bad. On the one hand, you don't have anything changing. On the other hand, your zero is really good at 1 magnification. That's typically at the highest magnification. That's how most people do it. So mine's at the 6 times magnification for the Vortex. So when I'm cranking down through like 3, my dope with my bullet drop reticle is not on. So kind of a pain. Now with the first focal plane, when you zoom in, you also zoom in on the reticle itself. So what EOTech has done is when you zoom in past that ring to a nice little bullet drop reticle. Now, I don't think that their bullet drop compensating reticle is the best out there, but we'll talk about that. But in any case, I think that the first focal plane is a cool idea because through the entirety of that zoom, your dope is good as far as your drop is concerned. It's just going to be a little smaller when you're hitting like 2 or 3 times X. But once you hit that 6X, but anyhow, it's kind of cool because you don't always want to be at 6X. You know, if your target's a little closer and you hit it up to 6X, especially if it's moving like you're trying to shoot a deer or something like that, that can be a little dicey trying to move in on that with a really high magnification versus a lower magnification. So in any case, I think that the first focal plane is cool and it works really well on the EOTech VUDU. Not to say that they're the first to do it at all, but it works with this particular optic. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of good things with the EOTech VUDU. It shreds at speed, it's fun, it's great, cool. But I have some problems with the EOTech VUDU. My first problem is the illumination. The illumination dials are easy to use. When you click all the way up, it blinks to let you know you're at the highest. When you click all the way down, it blinks to let you know it's the lowest. But at the same time, it is not that bright. So we're going to compare it against the Vortex Razor because that's kind of the gold standard. But the Vortex Razor is super bright in daylight. It's almost aim point bright when you're looking into it. Now compare that with the EOTech VUDU. It's almost like a dull maroon when you're looking at it in daylight. It's kind of a no-go. So it's bright enough when I bring it into shadow, it works, but during the day, looking at bright areas, that type of thing, it's definitely washing out. Now the reticle is still bold enough where I don't have any problems, but it's definitely something that I want them to correct in the future. Now I have heard that they have cool things coming in 2018. I don't know what, but we'll definitely review those when they come, but I imagine that they'll probably take a look at those because EOTech is typically pretty good at looking at their problems and fixing them. Well, we've already been over that. And that brings me to the reticle. So when you zoom all the way into 6X, you hit their bullet drop compensating reticle and all that kind of stuff. So it's really rudimentary, and I don't want to be too harsh on it because I spent so much time on the Primary Arms ACSS, which I consider to be a superior reticle when it comes to this type of thing. But I honestly wish that they could use it because it would work so well in this type of situation. So in any case, it's a bit rudimentary. It works. I wish it could be a little bit more precise, especially going from like the 100 down to like the 300 because you hit straight at 400 with it. You have the windage and that type of stuff. In any case, a lot of my reticle woes really come down to the fact that I'm using the SR3 reticle, which is their little horseshoe reticle. I would much more recommend their SR1 reticle. And when I've looked through the SR1 reticle, a lot of my gripes go away. It's pretty basic, but it works a lot better than the SR3. Now, speaking of the SR3, if you're all the way at 1x, you do have a problem. Between 50 and about 100 yards, when you're starting to not use that circle so much and you need to get a little bit more precise, that SR3 reticle really doesn't look all that great at 1x because it's not like a good center dot that you can easily bring on the target because it's so fine. So it's a little hard for me when I'm hitting that distance to make really good accurate shots. Now compare that to the SR1 reticle, which is a little crosshair. That one looks really good to me at 1x. I'm still able to make those shots because it's pretty precise and I can see it and it picks up well at speed between 50 and 100. Now that is my own personal gripe. Again, depending on how your brain works and all that type of stuff, everybody's going to be a little bit different. But I still want to throw it out there just to let you guys know that I don't think that the SR3 reticle is good. And if you're going to do the EOTech VUDU, I would recommend the SR1 reticle. Now, that pretty much takes me through kind of my gripes with the EOTech VUDU. So let's go ahead and let's sum everything up. Great glass. The EOTech VUDU has awesome glass. I love this thing. Incorporation, the scope lever, awesome. Really good, really forward thinking, big fan. Reticle and illumination. I hate the SR3 reticle. I love the SR1 reticle. Their illumination is not great and they need to fix it. Is that big of a deal for you? It could be. But again, that's going to be up to you. Overall, I think that this is an excellent optic. I think that there are some things that they need to fix, specifically the illumination, but I don't think that you will be ill-served using this optic. Now, what it comes down to is looking cool. Does the EOTech VUDU look cool? Depends. Do you like low power variables on AR-15s? If so, it looks super cool. No matter what, guys, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for next week.